What really happened between Lauren Tsai and Park Seo Joon? Why are fans all over the world suddenly speechless after her unexpected confession? For years, rumors swirled, but Lauren remained silent, until now. Her latest statement didn't just surprise fans, it completely shattered what everyone thought they knew. The truth has finally come to light, and it's far more dramatic than anyone could have imagined. Stay with Hidden Korea as we dive deep into the story behind the headlines, because this is one reveal you won't want to miss. At first glance, Lauren Tsai was unshaken. She walked into the Tokyo press room in a sharp black blazer, head held high, every step measured and elegant. Her face, painted in soft, muted tones, revealed no trace of hesitation. Cameras flashed, microphones pushed forward, and the noise of anticipation surged around her like crashing waves. But she stood still, controlled, calm. No one could have imagined that behind those composed eyes was a storm, one that had been building quietly for years. This wasn't just another celebrity press event. This was the day Lauren Tsai, model, artist, and actress known for her mysterious aura, finally chose to speak. About him, Park Seo Joon. The name alone sent a ripple through the room. For months, whispers had surfaced, traces of connection between the Korean A-lister and the multi-talented Lauren, scattered across fan theories, blurry paparazzi photos, and cryptic social media posts. Most shrugged it off as internet fantasy. But today, Lauren wasn't here to play coy. And as she leaned into the microphone, her voice didn't tremble, but it was softer than expected. "I've kept quiet because I thought that was strength," she said. "But silence doesn't always protect you. Sometimes it hides you." The room froze. Fans watching the live broadcast from around the world began flooding the comment sections. What is she about to say? Is this really about Seo Joon? What does she mean? Hide. Lauren looked down, briefly, then back up, and then came the reveal that no one could have expected. A meeting no one noticed. It began, she said, not with a dramatic meeting on a set or a flirtation in a spotlight, but with shared silence in a crowded room. 3 years ago, at an international film festival in Busan, Lauren was invited last minute to an industry dinner. She was seated next to Park Seo Joon, a global star with a quiet, charismatic energy. They didn't speak much that night. He nodded politely. She offered him the breadbasket. It was the kind of interaction that would normally dissolve into nothingness. But it didn't. "We weren't talking," Lauren recalled, "but we were listening to the same things, reacting to the same awkward jokes, laughing at the same subtle pauses." It felt like someone finally tuned into the same frequency. What started as polite nods turned into messages. A book recommendation, a shared playlist, then long messages about art, identity, and loneliness. They weren't dating, they weren't flirting, they were seeing each other in a way that no camera could catch. And that, Lauren said, was the problem. Private in a world that wants public. For someone like Park Seo Joon, loved, adored, idolized, privacy wasn't a luxury, was a fortress. And Lauren, herself no stranger to fame, understood the need to retreat from the spotlight. But the intimacy they built in private began to weigh heavily in the public eye. Every time a photo emerged, of Lauren in Seoul, or Seo Joon in LA, the online world erupted. Fans speculated. Agencies denied, but neither of them spoke. And yet, as Lauren admitted, "We were never a couple." Not in the way people assume. This was the moment when fans paused. Wait, what? What did she mean? Not in the way people assume. Was this a denial? A redefinition? A painful truth wrapped in elegant words? Continued, "There's a difference between being romantically involved and being emotionally intertwined." What we shared wasn't about dating, was about finding someone who understands the quiet parts of you. It wasn't love in the conventional sense, but it also wasn't not love. Strong on the outside, cracked within. From the outside, Lauren Tsai had it all. Appearances in Marvel's Legion, celebrated art shows in Tokyo, fashion campaigns that stretched across continents. She was bold, composed, fiercely articulate. But during the press conference, confessed, "There were nights I cried after our conversations ended. Not because I was heartbroken, but because I felt so seen that it frightened me." Seo Joon, despite being one of Korea's most beloved actors, wasn't someone she could have. Worlds were colliding from a distance, never quite crossing paths. He once told me, she said, glistening under the lights, "There are things I wish I could say out loud, but I don't want to lose what I have now." And I understood. That was the story of both our lives. She spoke. Fans online began realizing that this was no scandalous affair or dramatic love triangle. This was something rarer. Something deeper. The pain of two people who connected too late. Too far apart, to make it real. Not all love has a label. The most haunting part of Lauren's statement came when she said, "I was never his girlfriend, but I was the person he called when he couldn't sleep. I was the one who told him it was okay to cry. And he did." A world that demands clarity. Who's dating who? Who's unfollowed who? Lauren Tsai was offering ambiguity, vulnerability without labels, truth without tabloid drama. Yet, it was this very ambiguity that shocked fans, because for the first time, someone had the courage to admit, not all intimacy fits into the boxes we're used to. Park Seo Joon, through Lauren's words, was no longer just the dashing rom-com hero. He was a man with quiet sadness, held together by the threads of someone who understood without claiming ownership. What the agencies said, and what they didn't. Of course, after Lauren's emotional reveal, the media scrambled for comment. Park Seo Joon's agency released a short statement. "Mr. Park maintains professional respect and admiration for Ms. Tsai. We ask for understanding regarding their personal privacy." But it was what the agency didn't deny that set the internet on fire. They didn't reject the story, didn't call it fiction, and that silence, just like the one Lauren had kept for years, said everything. The fan reaction, shock, empathy, and healing. In the hours after the press conference, social media erupted. But surprisingly, the response was not outrage, it was emotional resonance. "I cried listening to Lauren," one fan tweeted, "because I've also loved someone I could never call mine. Didn't expose him. She protected him. That's the most painful kind of love," wrote another. "I used to want Park Seo Joon to date a perfect idol, but now I just want him to be happy." Fans realized this wasn't just a celebrity gossip headline, it was a human story, one that made them reflect on their own silent heartbreaks, invisible connections, and unspoken what-ifs. A man whose public image had always been meticulously curated, smiling at premieres, kind to fans, guarded yet charming. Park Seo Joon's decision not to respond directly was not surprising. It was calculated, but that silence carried weight, and for many, he made Lauren's words feel more truthful. Behind the scenes, however, there were ripples. Industry insiders reported that Seo Joon had watched the press conference in real time. One of his closest friends allegedly told a journalist off record, he was completely still the entire time. He said his laugh still echoed in her mind. Closed his eyes and didn't open them for minutes. The source added, "He didn't cry, but you could feel it. That kind of heartbreak doesn't show in tears, it shows in silence." And perhaps that was Park Seo Joon's true confession, not in words, but in everything he didn't deny. Man torn between two worlds. Behind Park Seo Joon's bright career and public perfection was a private life woven with pressure. From his humble beginnings to becoming one of Korea's most sought-after actors, Seo Joon had worked tirelessly to maintain an image of strength, discipline, and success. But insiders painted a different picture. "He always carries this weight," one staff member from a drama production once said. "He's kind, but distant, like he's afraid of getting too close, because everything can be taken away." And then Lauren, it seems, found someone who didn't try to fix him, someone who simply stood beside him, quietly holding space for the parts of him that no fan ever saw. He didn't ask for his fame. She didn't demand labels. But in the end, he couldn't give her more. Not because he didn't feel it, but because he wasn't ready to break the wall he'd built between his heart and his image. When the curtain falls, what remains? Week after Lauren's reveal, fans noticed something unusual on Seo Joon's Instagram. A post with no caption, just a photo of a blank sketchbook, a cup of coffee, and a pen resting on the edge of the table. First glance, it meant nothing, but Lauren Tsai was known for sketching as a form of therapy. In an old interview, She once said, "My sketchbook is the only place I feel completely safe." The comment section exploded. Is this his answer to her? Blank pages. Unwritten stories. Lost words. That's exactly what she said. Break in a photo. And just like that, the public finally saw what many had missed. Park Seo Joon was not unfeeling. He was just unable to speak the language of vulnerability as fluently as Lauren. But the emotion was there. Quiet. Devastating. Real. A moment at the awards. 1 month later, the two stars attended the same high-profile awards ceremony in Seoul. They didn't walk the red carpet together, weren't seated side by side, but what happened that night would become the talk of the industry for weeks. When Park Seo Joon won the award for Best Actor, he gave a perfectly polite, polished speech. Until the very end, he paused, looked toward the crowd, and said, "There are people who shape us, not through grand gestures, but through quiet honesty. I'm grateful to those who see me, even when I'm trying not to be seen." He didn't mention names. He didn't need to. Camera cut briefly to Lauren Tsai, seated among the guests. Her hands were clasped tightly, her eyes glistening, and for a split second, she smiled. Not a glamorous, ready smile, but the kind that comes from memories and meaning. The letter that never got sent. Long after the awards, a journalist with close ties to Lauren's team revealed that Lauren had written a letter to Park Seo Joon shortly after the press conference. She never sent it, but parts of the letter were later shared with her permission during a podcast episode about unspoken goodbyes. It read, "I don't blame you for the silence. Never promised me clarity. All I wanted was to know that what we shared was real, even if it had no name, and I know now. It was, and it always will be." It was the ending of a chapter filled with invisible ink, read only by two people. Fans turn inward. Many fans. The story between Lauren Tsai and Park Seo Joon wasn't about celebrity romance. It was about the relationships that live in between definitions. The emotional bonds that don't make it to Instagram but live in late-night texts. Quiet understanding. Shared vulnerability. TikTok videos and fan edits began surfacing, pairing Lauren's words with Seo Joon's interviews. Unspoken love. One fan titled a video montage, "Their story made me reflect on someone I never got to call mine." Another user wrote, "Wasn't about scandal anymore, it was about healing." The strongest people often bleed quietly. Both Lauren and Seo Joon are known for their outer strength. She, the bold artist with sharp elegance. He, the charming star with the composed demeanor. But in this story, fans saw the cracks beneath the armor. Lauren's bravery wasn't just in speaking, it was in admitting that she felt. She mourned something she never had in the way others expected. Seo Joon's strength, oddly enough, was in his quiet grief, in the way he honored her without fanfare, the way he didn't try to control the narrative. Their story, in many ways, was a reminder that even the most beautiful connections don't always end with a kiss or a wedding. Sometimes, they end with a memory, and the hope that the other person is doing okay, somewhere out there. So, were they ever in love? That's the question fans still debate. Some say yes. Some say number. Some say it doesn't matter, because maybe love isn't always about possession. Maybe it's about recognition. And in Lauren's words and Park Seo Joon's silence, the world witnessed one of the most painful, beautiful truths, that sometimes, the deepest relationships are the ones that never fully form, but never fade either. The legacy of a confession. Lauren Tsai has since gone back to her artwork, releasing a new series titled Unspoken Things. Critics and fans alike see shades of Park Seo Joon in the pieces, fragmented figures, muted colors, eyes filled with longing. As for Park Seo Joon, he's back on set, focused, driven. But, as one director mentioned quietly, there's a new softness in him, like someone reminded him it's okay